Welcome to Signature Chefs of Orlando. I'm Gary Hiles, Executive Chef and Operating Partner of the Ocean Air Seafood Room in Orlando, Florida, located at Point Orlando. A little bit about the restaurant itself. Ocean Air Seafood Room started in 1998 in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Many of you may think Minnesota, fresh seafood, but with today's technology, travel, internet, we're able to get fresh seafood from all over the world to our various locations throughout the country. With this dish that I'm going to show you next is a Lobster Thermidor. You can get it most, if not all, of the Ocean Airs. Lobster Thermidor is a traditional French dish. It is a classic dish. The lobster that we're going to use today is a Caribbean lobster tail. This is roughly a 9-ounce tail. Most grocery stores, specialty stores will have either fresh lobster for you, frozen lobster tails, or a various of meats. Now you can also use shrimp, you can also use crab, whichever you prefer in this dish. Now, the first thing about a Lobster Thermidor is the sauce itself. Now a traditional Thermidor sauce contains egg yolks, brandy, even a little bit of sherry, and some Dijon mustard. Now what we've done here at the Orlando Ocean Air, we've kind of put a little twist on it ourselves. First we make is a nice bechamel sauce. Now, a bechamel is one of the 5 mother sauces of French cuisine. Escoffier, the father of modern cooking, developed the sauce itself. What it is basically it's whole milk, a little bit of milk. Then you get 1 onion. This one is a little bit large, so what we'll do is we'll cut it in half. Make some quick chops in it. You can keep it rough chop, there's no problem at all. You want to drop that into the milk. Now, you'll also get some fresh cloves. Now you want to do about maybe 4 or 5 cloves. You don't want to do too many cloves because of the potency of cloves. It'll make it nice and you get that numbing effect in the mouth, which is not a good thing. You want to get about 8 peppercorns. You want to get some nice bay leaves. Now you can get some Turkish bay leaves. Like I said, any specialty store will have them. You want to go ahead and break the bay leaves in half. That helps release some of the oils. And then the one most important ingredient is going to be nutmeg. I prefer using a whole nutmeg, the way we can shred it in. So this is a fresh nutmeg. Now you want to go with just a little bit of nutmeg because it is also very strong and will overpower the sauce itself. Now what you want to do is give it a quick little whisk. And you want to bring the sauce itself up to a nice boil, almost a scalding effect for the milk. Now once that occurs, what you want to do is you actually want to turn the burner off and actually let the sauce sit for roughly 30 to 45 minutes. Now what that does is helps incorporate all the flavors, kind of blends the flavors together so you can move on to the next step. Now what we have here is a finished bechamel with the Thermidor sauce. Now you can see the consistency is a little bit thicker than the milk itself. Now the way we get the consistency is by making a roux. Most of you probably remember a roux in Grandma's kitchen during Thanksgiving. A little bit of turkey juice, a little bit of flour into the pan, helps thicken the gravy up. So that's what we're going to do here. Now a traditional roux is a little bit of whole butter, a little bit of flour. Our pan is almost coming to a boil. So what we do is a little bit of butter. Now you want the butter to completely melt. And then you want to slowly fold in the flour. In the kitchen, you'll learn in a professional kitchen, the more butter, the better. So do not be hesitant on the butter. So what you want to do is let the butter melt while also checking the sauce itself. Now, while we're waiting for the butter to melt and the sauce to come up to a boil, what we can do is take the lobster tail itself. Now, what you do is you'll take the lobster tail out of the shell. Now, you can keep the shell itself to make a shellfish stock, to make a nice lobster bisque, various other sauces that you can make with the shells itself, also with the crab shells, also with the shrimp shells. Now you want to take the lobster, basically cut it right in half. Sauce is coming up nicely, butter is starting to boil. And you just want to get some nice chunks. You want to get about quarter-sized chunks, nothing too small. That way it keeps the integrity of the lobster itself and also has something kind of to grab onto. Okay, so that's about it. Quick little chop for the lobster. Now the butter itself is beginning to melt. As you see, it's nice and hot in the pan. You want to turn down a little bit of the heat. And as you can see in the other pan that our bechamel is coming together. So what you want to do is just actually add your flour to the butter. You want to slowly whisk in the flour. Now you may need to add a little bit more flour, you may need to add a little bit more butter, but you want to get a consistency that's almost like a pancake batter. Okay. And then what you want to do is let the roux cook down a little bit. That helps cooks out some of the flour, but also will bind the sauce itself. A little bit more butter is going to be needed for this one. Now that the bechamel has come to a nice boil, we'll remove that from the heat. We'll set that in a safe spot. Now in a fresh sauté pan, going a little bit of olive oil. Let's get the roux back to where it needs to be. So what you'll do is after you let the bechamel cool, you'll strain it through a nice chinois or a fine mesh strainer to get out all the onion, the bay leaf, the peppercorn, and the cloves. You'll put it back on the heat, bring it to a nice slow boil, and then you'll slowly whisk in your roux. That's about the consistency of a nice blonde roux. You don't want to get it too dark, it'll actually change the color of the sauce. Now, a nice hot sauté pan. You want to add a little bit of olive oil. And we're just going to sauté the lobster itself. Nice aroma coming from the bechamel sauce. Now, traditionally, in America, the Lobster Thermidor is actually done back in the lobster shell itself, like we have in here showcased. Now here at the Oceanaire, you can either get a fresh Maine lobster done Thermidor, you can get a 9-ounce Caribbean lobster tail Thermidor, whichever you prefer. Myself, I prefer the Caribbean lobster tails. They're a little bit sweeter, a little bit harder in the meat. The Maine lobster is a nice cold water lobster tail, of course. Traditional, when you think of lobster, 98% of people think of the Maine lobster. So, nice hot sauté pan. You want to get your lobster in there. Get that nice searing motion going. A little bit of salt. A little bit of pepper. Now after you thicken up the bechamel sauce, to be a traditional Thermidor, it must have mustard. Now you can use a dry English style mustard, you can use a Dijon mustard, you can use a spicy hot mustard, you can use whatever kind of mustard you prefer, but a traditional Thermidor must have a mustard in it. We prefer to use a Dijon mustard here at the restaurant. Adds a little bit of zing to it, a little bit of flavor. So you just want to saute the lobster. You don't want to saute it too long, because the longer you saute lobster, it gets nice and chewy, and you're looking for that nice succulent meat to be nice and firm, nice and soft when you add the sauce. So after you get about 30% of it cooked, you want to add your bechamel sauce to it. Now, bechamel also is going to have a little bit of tarragon involved. Now, you can use dry tarragon, you can use a fresh tarragon, whichever the grocery store has. If you have your own herb garden, go out and pick some nice fresh tarragon. Now, if you use a dried tarragon, you need to reconstitute the dried tarragon in a little bit of white wine. You add a little bit of white wine to the dried tarragon. You want to bring it to a nice medium boil. Turn it off and let the tarragon actually reduce to where it is completely dry. That will reconstitute the tarragon itself and open up some of the aromas and flavors. So we got the Thermidor here. Put in your nice serving dish. Take a little bit of the tarragon if you would like. You want to do a nice soft chop. You don't want it to be too heavy on the tarragon. It'll bruise the leaves and turn them brown when you add them to the dish. Okay. So a little bit of sprinkle of extra tarragon on top. You want to rearrange your lobster. And then a little last touch that we do here at the Oceanaire is a nice little bit of Parmesan cheese. Don't use the green powdered Parmesan cheese, please. You want to use the nice fresh Parmesan, a little bit of Asiago grated on top. And then what you want to do is set your broiler on your oven to about 500 degrees. Now what you're going to do with that is you actually, after you put the cheese on top, you'll pop it into the salamander we call here at in the professional kitchen, or the broiler at home. It'll give it a nice little crust on top of the lobster itself. And there you have it, a traditional lobster thermidor that you can find at any Oceanaire throughout the country. We hope you enjoyed the Signature Chefs of Orlando podcast. Please join us for further dishes from some great chefs from the Orlando area. Thank you.